To Adam's Athenaeum. Let's take a look together through the news and records of our times as we try to shed light upon the unvarnished truth. Thanks for coming back to listen to this episode about BLM, the corporation. In this episode, we will talk about the history, goals, and outcomes of BLM, the corporation. We will delve into lowercase BLM, the social movement, and how it intertwines with the corporation. As I have said many times before, of course Black Lives Matter, they always have. If you need a slogan to get behind that message, you're sheep following the crowd. If you can't respect, love, and treat every other individual as an equal, regardless of their race, status, or sexual orientation, then you're the problem. But if you stand behind a group of trained Marxists who want to destroy America and its value system in the name of racial justice, then this video is for you. So where did it begin? According to BLM's website, Black Lives Matter was founded in 2013 in response to the acquittal of Trayvon Martin's murder. Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation Incorporated is a global organization in the US, UK, and Canada. So in 2013, we first began to see BLM being chanted at protests and riots, which took place from New York to Los Angeles. The goal of BLM, according to their website, is whose mission is to eradicate white supremacy and build local power to intervene in violence inflicted on Black communities by the state and vigilantes. By combating and countering acts of violence, creating space for Black imagination and innovation, and centering Black joy, we are winning immediate improvements in our lives. That sounds pretty powerful, but let's delve into that. Eradicating white supremacy is their mission. Okay, but have they named where this white supremacy exists? Not once. Have there been perceived and real white supremacists in history? Of course. I can think of two great examples we should all be able to agree on. First, Adolf Hitler was a real white supremacist. I don't think anyone will argue me on that. Now how about Kyle Rittenhouse? The young man from Kenosha, Wisconsin, recently acquitted of all murder and gun charges related to the riots. Kyle is a perceived white supremacist because of how the mainstream and corporate media and even the president have claimed him to be. Falsely, I might add. BLM co-founder Melina Abdullah doesn't seem to think that Kyle is a supporter of BLM. Perhaps she bought into the mainstream media, corporate media lie that Kyle Rittenhouse traveled across state lines with an illegal weapon and shot dozens of bullets, killing Black people as an act of white vigilantism. But that's a lie. If you watch the full trial, you will see 100% it was self-defense. It continues. By combating and countering acts of violence, creating space for Black imagination and innovation, and centering Black joy, we are winning immediate improvements in our lives. That can be left to interpretation. You can read it as, we will defend ourselves from violence, thus creating a safer space for ourselves. Or you can read it as, we will call something racist or violent, then go attack it before facts come out, and we will force a safe space for ourselves. But let's continue reading their mission statement to see if either of these opinions may be truer than the other. We are expansive. We are a collective of liberators who believe in an inclusive and spacious movement. That sounds fancy, but first let's define liberators. According to Merriam-Webster's, liberators means to set at liberty, specifically to free, something such as a country, from domination by a foreign power. To free from combination, to take or take over illegally or unjustly. So we can literally read that they view America, or its values, or even both, as a separate power or country from the world they live in. They want to be free from Americans and their way of life, to believe in their inclusive and spacious movement. I don't know if you know much of history, but usually, liberators end up desecrating an entire nation and destroy the civilization and economy. I like the last definition of to take over illegally or unjustly. This is 100% accurate to what happened in several cities and states across the US last year, where BLM or Antifa groups liberated Portland and other democratic cities and states such as Seattle, Washington. Well, if that doesn't show you the group's intentions, I don't know what will. But let's keep learning. According to her story on the BLM website, the three founders of BLM are Alicia Garza, Patrice Cullors, and Opal Tometi. Sorry if I messed any of those up. I find that a little odd because Wikipedia told me that Walter Hawk Newsom is an American law school graduate who co-founded Black Lives Matter of Greater New York alongside his sister Shavonna Newsom. Again, sorry if I messed her name up. Now perhaps this is because they are different sects of BLM. Similar to motorcycle gangs, these sects usually are in a specific state, but appropriate their group to a larger movement. However, Wikipedia also says BLM is a decentralized movement with no leaders. Not that Wikipedia is a great place of facts, but it can be helpful when doing analysis such as this. If there's co-founders, then there's leaders, right? I often hear of BLM protests and riots as well as on social media about how blacks are being hunted down by the police and white men, which is not factually true. In 2019, according to the FBI, 15 unarmed black men were shot and killed by on-duty police officers, compared with 25 whites being shot and killed by on-duty police officers. Also in 2019, the rate of black-on-black crime became clear in Chicago, Illinois. What these graphs show us is that the overwhelming majority of victims are black, and that the overwhelming majority of the offenders were also black. That's facts. That's data. You can't argue with it. If it hurts your feelings or shocks you, that's a good thing. I won't apologize for it. The truth hurts, and that's okay. But why do these stats matter? When have you heard of BLM going to liberate Chicago? When have you seen BLM go to Chicago and provide housing, schooling in the poorer, more crime-ridden neighborhoods? Because they are a social justice movement using their name to get your money for their political gains in the end. Now, when writing this episode, I came across an interesting story written by Mike Gonzalez at the Heritage Foundation, or heritage.org, titled, "This BLM co-founder and pro-communist China group are partnering up. Here's why." And in it, he writes, "Go to the website for the Black Futures Lab, a venture of Black Lives Matter founder Alicia Garza, and click on the donate button. It will ask you to send your money to an obscure organization, the Chinese Progressive Association, explaining that Black Futures Lab is a fiscally sponsored project of the Chinese Progressive Association." The Chinese Progressive Association was founded in San Francisco in 1972 during the heady days of the Marxist-oriented Asian American movement, and today it also has a very active chapter in Boston. From its start, it has been a promoter of the People's Republic of China. According to an authoritative 2009 Stanford University paper tracing its early days to the present, and which can be found on Marxist.org, the CPA began as a leftist, pro-People's Republic of China organization promoting awareness of mainland China's revolutionary thought and workers' rights, and dedicated to self-determination, community control, and serving the people. Now, I find this to be interesting and relevant, particularly if you've seen my videos on Marxism or communism, both of which are introductory videos to the ideology, because it shows that these trained Marxists are aligned with the Chinese Communist Party. It would seem clear to me that the ideology these liberators want to impose on us would be the same ideology they promote and are funded by. Even on the BLM homepage, if you choose to donate, donations are received through Act Blue, which is a shadowy lefty money-raising operation which has helped to bail out rioters in the 2020 riots. So I can't say this sounds like a legitimate business corporation with somewhat moral goals. BLM, by their own admission, sound like liberators who hate the country they live in, perceive a whole bunch of lies and fallacies to be true, and will condemn everyone who doesn't stand behind their message. That's not to say that your average Joe or Sally on the street shouting Black Lives Matter is involved with, knows about, or even understands the BLM corporation. Sometimes unknowing pawns can be extremely efficient in your political goals. In fact, I would assume most people who go to protests in the daytime are there to protest. People who allow journalists to document their movement are usually simple protesters. When people come out under the cover of darkness with their faces hidden or obscured, carrying weapons and homemade bombs, I would assume their sole intent is to riot and not to peacefully protest. Not every BLM protest took place at night, nor was every riot excluded to nighttime. What I'm trying to say is, not everyone who goes to a protest may have a grand conspiracy to tear apart America. They may just have experienced an injustice and they want to be vocal about it. That's your First Amendment right. But every rally has a message, a bigger and broader movement behind it, and has people behind the scenes helping to delegate the chaos and destruction we later see. So looking back, what has BLM the corporation brought us? Certainly it has brought division. People offended by the BLM slogan immediately responded with "White Lives Matter" or "All Lives Matter." As stated in a song by Tom MacDonald, who is a great American-Canadian rapper, in the song titled "No Lives Matter," Tom says, "And everything's so connected. Black Lives Matter got so aggressive. White folks who agree can't support the message. Both sides go to war because they can't respect it." In hindsight, the aim of the lowercase BLM movement got lost behind the violence of the BLM corporation and its larger goals. Now the polls from Civics polling show a majority of Americans actually oppose BLM rather than supporting it. As I always try to promote here, truth, honesty, and respect will bring fruit to ripe conversations that actually mean something and make a difference. Lies, obscure mission statements, and hidden agendas are what people eventually see through. And I'm here to expose that kind of activity. I will always shed light upon the unvarnished truth here at My Athenaeum. And this video is not out to bring down the message of the lowercase BLM movement, but to expose the corporation for what I see it to be. If I missed anything, or you would like to add facts to this dialogue, I look forward to hearing from you in the comments section. If you like my work and think I make good videos, please share my videos to any and all of your friends, and don't forget to leave a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel and keep receiving the truth as I find it about the news. I look forward to seeing you for my next episode on Antifa, an introduction.